Understood that your CPU tests are done in a particular way for a very good reason. Steve made clear to all of us, don't you think it would be awesome to compare a set of CPUs with a set of high-end GPUs at high resolutions, 1440p and up, considering ultra-wide and format many people love, to see if it's rational and valuable to make an upgrade on a CPU side to get more from that resolution. For example, could be, if I have a 4090 and a 12700K for gaming, would it be a valuable choice to get a 13700K if I want to play games at 1440p, 3840 by 1600 or 4K, and to see an evident uplift? So that's the question.
In that example, that's a very small upgrade. But look, I tried to explain this in that very video, so I do appreciate the question because this is something that a lot of people still asked even after that video. Basically, it's, at least in my opinion, it's about frames per second. Again, this was all explained in detail from many different angles, but people seem to focus on resolutions. I play at this resolution, therefore I want to know the performance there. But even that's not terribly useful because, first of all, I don't know the quality settings you play with. I don't know the games you're playing. I don't know, how sensitive you are to stuff like input. Are you buying the CPU to pair with the GPU you have now, or would you like to pair that CPU with a future GPU? So do you plan on upgrading your computer? Do you plan on playing future games that will most certainly be more CPU demanding than the games you're playing now? So therefore, tailoring the review for your very specific use scenario in this very specific point in time is kind of useless and misleading. But all of that aside, the way I look at it is you are requiring or seeking a certain frame rate, which I think everyone is, right?
Yep.
It's like if I said to you, you have to play single player games at 45 FPS, how happy would you be with that? So what FPS do you like to target for your single player games?
Depends, but usually like
ballpark at 60 to 80,
60,
80 to 90.
Yeah. I mean, these days I'm sort of getting more into the high refresh rate stuff with single players. I think, like 90, 100.
Yeah, so Tim, 90, 100. I'm for single player games, that's sort of my minimum. Obviously for multiplayer games, I like to get closer to 200 FPS. I find that a lot better. But my point is everyone has an FPS figure in mind. So really, regardless of the resolution you're playing at or targeting, you just want to make sure you can get your desired frame rate at that resolution. So again, it all comes back to the frame rate. So if we're seeing 80 FPS at 1080p, it doesn't really matter if it'll only do 40 FPS or whatever, because you'd be lowering the quality settings to facilitate a higher frame rate. So you want to make sure that the CPU can do that. So yeah, but anyway, this was all explained in that video. I think it's best to think about it in a frame rate sense, since that's the performance metric we're measuring, rather than a resolution. Because regardless of whether you play at 1080p or 4K, if you want 90 FPS and your GPU can only do 40 FPS at 4K, you're either going to lower the resolution or lower the quality settings because you don't want to play at 40 FPS.
Yeah.
Make sense?
Yeah, that's a good way of looking at it.
So that's how I would focus on that. And for all the other reasons I mentioned in that video, it's misleading to GPU limit CPU performance while making CPU recommendations. That's not terribly helpful for anyone. And again, people generally upgrade their GPU more often than they upgrade their CPU. So it's not just about the here and now, it's about the future and all of that other stuff.
Yeah, I think this comes down to as well, a lot of people who look at reviews want to see the exact performance numbers that they'll be seeing in their gaming scenario. So for example, you look at a review, you'd be like, I want to target this game, get this performance, which may be achievable in some reviews, but I think generally a better way of going about it is really looking at things like percentage differences, looking at what you have, what are you achieving in your game right now with the hardware that you have, and then figuring out how much faster an upgrade will be, because that will be much more widely applicable.
Yes.
So if you have two CPUs in the chart, maybe from us, or you're looking at across different reviews or whatever, you can sort of make a guide to sort of say, okay, well, the thing I've got now, the upgrade I'm looking at is 50% faster. So then that may give you that, if you're targeting 90 FPS and you're only getting 60 FPS now, then that 50% figure will probably get you right in that ballpark of the performance you're looking for. Whereas, yeah, it does feel like a lot of people, when we see a lot of comments about that want their specific setting resolution tested to see the exact numbers that they're getting, whereas a lot of the time, the percentage differences is a really good way of going about it.
And to get a bit further into that specific example, So if you have a 12700K, are you getting enough frames per second in your game? Are you like, well, I want 60 FPS, I'm getting 60 FPS, so what will a new CPU do for me? It's like, well, in that instance, there's not much point upgrading, because if you're happy with 60 and the new CPU will get you to 70, there's really not much point in that. So it's worth keeping that in mind as well. And if you want to know whether your CPU or GPU limited, you can look at stuff like install MSI Afterburner or Hardware Info with Riva Tuner, put the CPU usage and the GPU usage up on screen. That'll give you a rough, it's probably more accurate on the GPU side, but it'll let you know pretty quickly, are you fully utilizing your GPU, or, you know, are you CPU limited, and therefore a faster CPU will give you more FPS.
Yep. There's even built-in tools to things like the NVIDIA GeForce Experience these days, and
yeah, the same with the
they can provide those metrics for you. But yeah,
so you can certainly work out where you're limited in your system by looking at those statistics, and yeah, it's really about the frame rate you're targeting. Do you actually need more performance? So anyway.